This episode of the Polyhedron Collidercast is sponsored by Kienda. Go to www.kienda.co.uk/Polyhedron Collider for a discount off your first order. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collidercast, episode 162. I'm Steve Tudor.
Hi, I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill.
And I'm Rory Summers. We've got some exciting news, folks. We're going to be live at the UK Games Expo for the third year running. Can you believe it?
No.
Absolutely not.
Invite us back.
We have been invited back to do another live show. This time, we're going to do it on Friday at 10:30. So come and see us, because we'll have been fresh from, well, we'll just be fresh, to be honest, but we'll be fresh from the Thursday night press preview. So we
fresh
can be
with
talking
a PH.
Yes, indeed.
Fresh for a PHC.
Oh, nice. Good grief.
Dear me. But yeah, we'll be there. So if obviously we're going to have our review episode as normal, but anything that's slipped through the net or anything we've become overly excited about after seeing the goodies on the tables, we'll be able to share with you Friday morning. Room to be confirmed, so stay tuned to the socials. But yeah, come along and see us.
Yep.
Its details will be on the UK Games Expo website. They already are.
Yeah.
And, well, of course, we're going to put a Facebook event up as well in case you use that to organise your time. But, yeah, really quite looking forward to that. Perfect time, I think, because it gives us a chance to talk about all the stuff we saw the night before, and everyone can tell everyone, go see this or see that.
Yeah. And we'll still have loads of energy because we won't be banjaxed after 3.5 days of running around like headless chickens.
That is correct.
Very exciting, so yeah. But that's not the only thing that's exciting that's happening at the UK Games Expo this year.
It'd be nice if it was the only thing that was happening, just us doing the podcast.
Just us and then loads of board games. That's it, folks. Yeah. But no, there's at least one more interesting thing happening. And that is our mates over at the Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy are running their annual painting competition with the UK Games Expo.
Ooh. That is big news.
It is actually quite big news, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's going to be huge, because I do believe he does these competitions at like lots of mini cons.
Yeah.
Which, only a few people, kind of relatively small people, go to these conventions. But I think this one's going to be absolutely massive because it's at Expo.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I've already started.
I've thought about starting.
I have started. I have spent 3 hours trying to remove mould lines from a single fucking model. And succeeded, admittedly, but still.
I've produced a subcontract,
which
I will be putting out for tender. I'll be taking on a pen painter, as I like to call it.
A pen painter. But there's some great categories. You've got squad, which is a minimum of 3 characters.
Well, I've got one minor complaint. In that it's very the first 4 categories are basically Warhammer miniatures.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's a board game category.
Yes.
So it's like single miniature basically says a war game miniature, then squad, then vehicle, then monster, and it basically says there's a board game category which says like miniatures which can't be used in war games. So it's going to be everything. It's going to be Warhammer in one section, and then there's board games in the other.
And there's a kids section as well, isn't there?
There's a kids section.
There's a Squire section, which, as they say kids, it's under 15s. Personally, I know that my son would like another category because I think there's a great big difference between the painting ability of an 8-year-old and a 15-year-old.
We haven't seen some of my early attempts.
You've seen my Blood Angels, boys. That's an under 15s attempt at it.
That paint's quite thick on there, isn't it? That's not something you can strip in a weekend, is it?
I used a grinder, and I'm still going.
Yeah, it is. There does seem to be a lot of overlap in some of those categories.
That's not a bad thing, though.
Well, I don't know, because it means what would you submit a particular thing into? I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at the categories and I'm confused. And I'm entering the bloody thing.
I think look at it with a bit of a side eye to what Golden Demon does.
Yeah.
And basically, the categories are very, very similar, apart from Golden Demon separates out Age of Sigmar and 40k. whereas this just kind of puts the two together. So single miniature can be it can be from anything. Squad can be from anything, but it follows very similar kind of basic categories they've got there. Anyway, there's a board game category. I'm entering that, so I'm happy.
And I have been cajoled into doing the same thing.
I decided to do something drastic and remove the miniature from its molded on base last weekend.
Easy now.
Steady, mate, steady.
It involved careful use of a hacksaw, and it was quite terrifying.
It's like millions of voices all crying out at once.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know where I videoed it, so at some point I'll put a YouTube of me hacking together this board game mini.
I've tried that before with a very sharp knife. It was a slow process.
I started with a knife and then actually went to the garage and got a hacksaw out.
Wow.
Just easier with a hacksaw.
It was just easy with a hacksaw. But yeah, right tool for the job, you know.
Yeah.
Just took me time.
Is that why you're asking me if I have the Proxon hot wire cutter? Because that would have made a dream of it just going straight through.
No, it wasn't. That was for something else. That was.
Okay.
I'm still not sure. If I'm gonna
That's
get
because
one or
he's
not.
putting a new base together and needs to like a little diorama for
It's
it.
cool,
I've seen the
that's
people
XPS
that win
phone.
Golden Demon. You've got to have extra stuff.
No. One of the rules for this one is that it has to be on a miniature then get on a base that goes onto the board. You can't do my usual job of making a diorama around one miniature.
Yeah,
That's
they're
a
all
rule.
on appropriate bases, aren't they? I think is the rules.
Yeah. That's the word of the rule. Yeah.
So we can't go nuts.
I haven't gone nuts. I've just put a little bit of material on the base to raise it up a smidge.
Bit of bling on the base. Nothing wrong.
Bit of bling on the base.
I will be doing no such thing to my chosen model because it doesn't need it. It's been sat looking at me for a week, primed and ready to go, but that's as far as I've got.
Fair enough.
There's a lot going on at UK Games Expo, right?
There is.
But you boys missed the con of the year.
Con of
couple
the
of weekends
year.
a year ago. A couple of weekends ago.
Yeah.
Con
Con
of
of the year it was.
I was saying, when was the last time you went to a con and had pancakes?
Yep, pancakes. With two magnificent boys with beards.
Actually, it was last
Yeah.
year. It was the Expo's one of
Oh,
the
shut up,
food
Andy.
carts
So we're talking
outside.
we're talking about the Gil Summers Con. Right, the Gil Summers Con. So I took my kids over to go see Mr. Gill and family, and we stayed for the weekend. And I've left half of my belongings at his house. It turns out.
I think it's
I get
making
a
its way
message every
back
now
to
and then.
you.
Goes, Rory, is this your coat? Is this your scarf?
Is this your little clicker
toothbrush?
for your camera thing?
I just get a list every now and
I
then.
think I think it's at Steve's mother-in-law's now.
Oh, is it?
I think
It's slowly
it's made it there.
Wow, that's a bit of a round journey.
I think I'm not sure why it's there, but that's what I think I've heard rumours of. But yes, we had an excellent weekend, didn't we, Summers?
We did, and we played lots of games, and we played a lot of games with the wee nippers. So between us, we've got 3 kids, 2 boys of 8 and a little girl of 6. Have I got Jai is 8, isn't he?
Yes, he is. You got it quite right.
Yeah, bang on. So, and we played some great games. So we're going to be talking about some of these little family games that we played. I think we should talk about one that was a FlickFleet.
Oh,
which
this was
caused
controversial.
This caused some emotions.
Well, this is once always at Expo, isn't it, FlickFleet?
Yeah.
Now,
They've always got a stand at Expo.
we were at Expo, and the kind guys of Eurodice, I believe, gave us a copy to review, and finally we got it to the table with the kids, and I tell you what, it divided the con
Oh, yeah.
massively. So let me tell you a bit about it first. It's like a dex based kind of space battle game, right? So you've got little plastic ships which have got tokens on them and stuff like that, and then you flick them across the table, and you're effectively trying to hit your opposite player's little ships. That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a flicky game. It's it's very dex based, but there is some strategy to it as to who you hit, where you hit, different classes of ships. You've got carriers, you've got little destroyers, you've got all sorts of stuff, right? Little fighter wings. It's pretty clever, really nice, chunky pieces. Put them on a dining table with a nice mat underneath it and go to town.
Yeah,
That's the game, right?
The idea is you're flicking these ships around, and then you fire one, and at which point you put, is it a red die on it? And depending on the ship, changes what type of size die it is.
Kind of die you roll.
And then you're going to try and flick that die to hit your opponent's ship. So you've got to position and then flick the die to try and hit the ship. If you hit the ship with the die, you then look at the number on the die and then you work out where you've hit the ship. Really clever, really simple, though. And it is all about flicking. One of the children stormed off in a right huff because they couldn't do it at all.
Was it Sid?
What a cheeky bugger.
No, it got to...
Just like when we and you played Crokinole at
Yes.
Expo, the first time we flicked a piece, it ended up halfway across the Expo
Yeah.
into someone's pint of beer kind of thing, you know.
Exactly. That's a really good... Yeah, so it's like Crokinole, like Ice Cool, like Sabutio. You've got to... It's the difference between flicking it hard and flicking it a little bit, getting the angles right. Logan could not do it. He just kept firing dice and they'd just go flying off the table. That's a miss. Whereas Jai, on the other hand, excelled at this game. He had precision accuracy with it.
He did not get it from his father, I'll tell you that.
He did not get that from me. You're quite correct. But I'm glad he got it from someone because this game has hit the table more times now. I think it's almost up to Stomp the Plank.
Really?
Wow.
He after Rory left, he wanted to play it again and again and again.
Yeah.
He absolutely loved it. And I think it's a weird game. It's one of these games I think that is really, really simple to get into. You put it on the table, you put your pieces on, you put your dice on, and you shoot your dice at each other. That's kind of it, right? And different numbers, different damage, all that stuff. But then you start... He plays it like that. He puts the dice, he flicks the dice, he moves his little ships along. Because you're not only you're flicking dice, you're flipping the ships around to position them. Oh. So you've got 2 levels of dexterity, right? So you're moving your ships about and then putting the dice on and then locking the dice when you trying to cause damage, basically. And he loves it. Yeah. Absolutely loves it.
But Logan, about 3/4 of the way through the game, gave up, stormed out. He goes, I don't want to play this anymore. Walked into the other room, and I think he punched the wall. I shit you not. There's like my 8-year-old son in this rage punched the wall or a sofa or something and hurt his hand.
It was a weird thing to watch, I think.
Like to see how complete opposite reaction to this game. So it does fall into that bracket. If you like that dexterity element of it, you will be great. But I think for me, and I'd say with Crokinole a great example of I enjoyed it, but I was rubbish at it. And I don't think no matter how much I try and get better, I'm never going to be able to have that level of control.
I agree. I think it's a very divisive game. I think there's some people, it's a Marmite of games, absolutely. But it's popular here. It's popular in this household.
Did you remember playing, I think it was in New Year, last year, so 2023-4. You played, God, what was that racing game I brought? The car.
Oh, FlickFleet.
No.
Not FlickFleet. Oh, that's the same game. I know what you mean. Pitch Car.
Pitch Car.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of like that, yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of like that. But it's another one of these games where it can get frustrating really quickly. I totally get where Logan was coming from. And same with Pitch Car is if you start to if you just can't get your fingers to do what you want them to do, there's no amount of learning that's going to change that. Right, no. you just your fingers won't do what you're asking them to do. That's the end of the conversation. Yeah, you can spend years and months trying to practice it, but you're not gonna. That's the bottom line of it.
That is because you probably didn't play Sabutio as a child like I did.
Maybe.
My flicking game is excellent.
Yeah. But that wasn't FlickFleet, right? Caused a lot of arguments and a bit of a falling out between the two sides of the Gil Summers household. But a game that didn't, we also played, was Monkey Palace.
Now I'm intrigued by this one because we actually purchased this as a gift for someone at Christmas. Yeah. Amanda picked it up as this gift, and I nearly wanted to unwrap it and play it myself because it looked very intriguing.
This game has been everywhere. I've seen this in Waterstones, in WH Smith's. It's very, very easy to get your hands on. And it's a Lego game. And I think we describe this as the idea is you're trying to build arches. You've only got the arch piece of Lego, individual blocks, and like the singular tower blocks. If that's all you had, and I told you to just come up with a game using only those pieces, what you would probably invent is going to be very close to Monkey Palace. It's a Lego board game. It does exactly what it says on the tin. if you like playing with Lego, which is everybody, right? And you like playing board games, which is everybody with any nonce, right? This is just a good, fun game. It's just clever. And all you're doing is you earn an income every round of some pieces, some arches, some individual blocks or some towers. And then you just have to build steps to try and build like a really high tower. And the higher you build up, that's the more monkey credits you have, which allows you to buy more cards or better cards, which give you a better income. And you do that until there aren't enough pieces to play anymore. And then you work out whoever's got the most points, and whoever's got more cards has probably got more points. And if you get like a tower of 5, if you get 5 high, you win some bananas, which is more points. It's a really, really simple game, really easy to teach. Looks really great on it, because obviously you're building this 3-dimensional tower, and you're building off each other, and you're trying to be clever to block people trying to build off your foundations. Absolutely stonking game. Really good fun.
And it levels the playing field between kids and adults beautifully.
Yeah.
Is that again? Are we referring to your fingers like pig's tits, Mr. Gill?
No. There's no decks in this one. It's simply kids grab. Jai's first go at it, right? Logan played before with Rory, and Jai's first go at it. He was there trying to work out how he was going to dick Rory over. Yeah. And it was beautiful to watch. You know, oh no, I can get a 9 tower if I do this, or if I just go here, I'll put this arch here. Look, I can get a 10 tower, or I'll put it there. And it was both the kids loved it absolutely. I mean, I bloody loved it.
It's that ability to almost see in 3 dimensions that they're able to just rotate it. It seems to just faster in their heads than Sid and I were. They're just more malleable to how they can deal with that 3-dimensional space.
It's quite frightening how slow your brain gets with age.
Yeah.
But for 30 quid, this is an absolutely belting game, or less than 30 quid you can pick this up for. Really recommend it.
Absolute belter.
Noted.
And we got 2 more games to cover. This one is a little bit more expensive and a bit heavier. Was My Little Scythe. And My Little Scythe is, I'm not a big fan of Scythe. But I now really...
You soaked all the way through that game.
I soaked all the way through it. But I now really want to play regular Scythe now that I've earned my stripes playing My Little Scythe. It's a really good stripped down version. And I picked this up as a present for Logan a while ago. And we played it that night, and we played it twice that night. And then the following morning, for some reason, I can't remember why, but I was coming around to yours, Steve, and we ended up playing a game at yours.
So yes, I have actually played this. Yeah,
you've played this.
It is really clever. It takes everything that Scythe does and just simplifies it just enough. But it's weird. Everything's still in there. The main beats of playing Scythe are still there.
I'd argue it does it better.
I would agree.
Whoa.
I knew this would cause this controversial reaction from Andy, and I don't care, because I think it does. I genuinely believe it does it in a nicer way.
It does it in a nicer way, but I do think it's still a kid's game, so it doesn't have the complexity and, of course, the thinkiness of a full game Scythe. But it's got a lot of the same elements really distilled down so that the rules are easy and they're not too mean either. Scythe can be a bit mean at times.
Yeah.
This really isn't.
No, I mean, it promotes that, because it has one of the tracks you need to go up to get your awards, your trophy, is the friendship track. And instead of the harvesting action, in My Little Scythe, you have some dice and you roll the dice, and they're colour-coded and whatever, and you're going to generate either apples or gems or quests onto the board. And if you place an apple or a gem onto an opponent, you go up the friendship track. So by seeding them, you can very quickly get up this track, which gets you one of your trophies, which you don't really want your opponents to do, so you kind of want to do it back to them. So it almost promotes this collaborative, I'm going to be friendly to you as well, which is really odd how it turns that competitiveness upside down in the game.
Interesting. That sounds like it's got an element of expeditions in there, or rather expeditions as an element of this in it, because it came out afterwards. In that there's a couple of resources out there. Well, there's orange and blue, whatever the hell they are in expeditions. And then there's literally the quests that you can pull out, those quest cards that you end up having to do to get some points.
So I think what I liked about this one really was that I didn't feel like I was putting up with it. You know, sometimes you get a kids game where you feel like you're just a passenger along for the ride, helping the kids play. I never felt that throughout this game at all. I felt like I was an active player with 3 other people around the table.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were 8 years old.
And you were competing with those 8-year-old children.
You were competing with them. And they were... No, we had 5-player game in this, actually,
You did play, didn't you?
And I think it was... I think it just absolutely... It packed a wallop for a game like this for me.
Which actually was another highlight of the Summer's GuildCon, that while you were playing a 5-player game of that, I was in the kitchen with Marley baking cupcakes for everybody. So towards the end of the game, we turned up with a tray of cakes for everybody.
It was excellent.
Don't get that.
Major friendship points there.
Yeah.
And then the last game we played was CoraQuest, Keep on Questing, which is the campaign version of the excellent CoraQuest, which is absolutely brilliant. And we didn't play we didn't really play a duff game here, but the CoraQuest, the way they've expanded that game to include the campaign mode is really simple. It's really beautiful how you collect coins throughout your treasure, and at the end of the game you're going to spend those coins to get some degrees, and you get some permanent abilities to use onwards. It is, if you like CoraQuest, and I think if you've got kids and you like playing board games, CoraQuest needs to be in your game collection. If you've got children between 6 and 12 in your house, CoraQuest should be on your shelf without a shadow of a doubt.
I think what you need is CoraQuest, the base game, and if I'm honest, I think you need to Keep on Questing, which is the add-on expansion for it. It makes that game even better than it is in the base box, and it adds so much more to that as a campaign play. It's wonderful.
Yeah, combat's brilliant. The story's engaging. The way the way the board generates, it's never a walk in the park. Even though you're playing a kid's game, the game can dick you over. And we played it with Jai and Logan taking it in turns to be the games master, because they enjoy that role. It's not an easy game. You are actively playing this game every turn. It's chuffing brilliant. I just wish that Bright Eyed Games are going to come out with the next expansion should come with a big box, because there's so much content in that now which won't fit in the box. But yeah, we played loads of kid games and it's brilliant, and we're going to do it again soon because we've got even more. Because I love playing games, and I love playing games with my kids, and I love it when I'm able to play a game and see them engaging with it and with me at their own level. And all of these games, with the exception of FlickFleet, were absolute winners from in the summer side.
And on the guild side, all 4 were absolute belters. So yeah, we had a very nice weekend.
We did.
And just for reference, Rory's a very, very good house guest. Mrs. G still loves that Rory comes round. And he's like a little dwarf. He just does things in the kitchen. He cooks and cleans and everything. He's like a little house elf.
Well, our name's Mud in the Gill household now, then, isn't it, Andy?
No.
Right. That's fine. I don't care.
You two are rubbish.
Yeah, we don't have kids, do we, Steve?
No,
we have things like sleep.
I remember doing that once. It never really got on.
And, disposable income and things like that.
I remember that as well.
So we also don't clean Sid's kitchen.
That is true. No, we fucking don't. No. Sid can clean his own bloody kitchen.
You've got to earn your keep somehow.
I do. I turn up when I'm asked, I drink his beer and I leave. That's that's my function in life.
Rory, you are so much in credit, right? You don't need to do very little more you need to do for a few months.
Well, I think, Steve, we should go to Birmingham to head of steam and have our own convention. And omit telling these two.
I don't have to did you get in trouble this time? Because last time you two had a mini-con, you got in trouble for playing Sky Team until like 2 o'clock in the morning.
I don't remember
we were very careful this time.
You had a phone call.
I may have set an alert to my phone to remind me to make a phone call and send messages to check.
We were very good this time.
Well, you two have had a nice family jaunt. Well, it looks like Mr. Lewis here has been having something a bit more sophisticated in his gaming conventions.
You're absolutely right, sir. Yes. I did something slightly more important, interesting, civilised. I went to an observatory in Bidston, which is in Merseyside. So my accent was doing all kinds of fun things all weekend. Because for those of you who don't know, and obviously listen to this delightful voice like melted butter every week, my origins are actually in Merseyside. Merseyside, as it's supposed to be pronounced.
I didn't know that about you.
Did you know? I was born in Birkenhead. Well, just outside it. But
listen to you go already.
Here we go. Yeah. Well, this is get your laughs in now, boys. Here we go.
I'm in a weird situation here though, because I'm from just outside Wrexham, and Wrexham is basically you go 5 miles, well, not even 5 miles, one direction from my parents' house, and it's Scouse accents. And you go 5 miles opposite direction, and it's the thickest Welsh accent you've heard in your life. So if Andy does too much Scouse accent, I might tip that way. And if I speak to someone with a really strong Welsh accent, I will definitely tip that way as well. And then, funnily enough, the other week, you mentioned this, I was doing something with work, and I was in deepest, darkest Wales, and this guy started talking, and I really started going. As soon as he started talking, before I knew it, I was just off.
It's weird, and it's subconscious. You don't put it on. It's weird. But yeah, we went. It's actually kind of the fault, or I say the fault. It was the invitation of a sort of temporary member of our Bewdley group, a guy called Adam, who came down last year. He was actually working at the safari park as a plasterer because they were building some accommodation there or something. And he ended up joining our board gaming group. We got on really well. And he invited us up to this weekend, which has basically been done by his board gaming group, just outside Lytham, I think it is. And they booked this gaff. And it turns out the Bidston Observatory is now open. I wouldn't say it's open to the public, but you can rent it for specific, and I'll put heavy air quotes here, artistic endeavours. So apparently a board gaming meetup counts for that kind of thing. But there's kind of dormitories and a few bedrooms and stuff in there. It's rough and ready. It's self-catering, but for 40 quid a night, I'm not complaining. It was comfortable enough. There's plenty of space, but it is literally the old observatory. So there's still got the 2 domes because it's a double-domed observatory there, and it is a huge kind of. It's almost like a Lovecraftian manor. So anyone who's played Mansions of Madness, honestly, walking through the front door, you've got that hallway with the lovely tiled floor and the marbled walls, the big wooden staircase at the end. You're thinking, I'm going to die if I go up there.
The music starts.
That's
right
it.
away,
Exactly right.
Single piano note. Ding.
Yep, exactly right. And it just looked the parts. This is why I sent you a load of pictures. It even had a library, for goodness sake. I thought, yep, someone's definitely getting murdered in here. But yeah, we had a girl called Becky toured us around the observatory, and she's as thick.
What was she called? What was she called?
Becky. Yeah.
Becky.
And of course, I ended up talking to her, and I said, "All right, girl, how you doing? You all right? You enjoying yourself? Have you joined any games?" "No, I couldn't do that." "Yes, you can. It's fine." Honestly, it was funny but fun. But but we played because it had like
you could have Ofcom on our case in a minute. I tell you.
I'm allowed. It's my people. I'm allowed to be slightly cheeky. But there's a sort of top floor, middle floor, basement, and a sub basement. So I had to wander around the sub basement, as you do, thinking it's going to be all dark and spooky. And the only thing I found was a portal to the upside down. So nothing special there. Literally this horribly black recessed hole in the wall that seemed to lead to nowhere. And I thought, no, I'm not going anywhere near that. I've seen enough telly to know not to touch these things. But we ended up playing. We were there on the sort of Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There was about 15, 20 of us there. Lots of folk I'd not met. Oh, yeah,
so it was like a mini convention.
Oh, yeah, it totally was, yeah. And of course, everybody took far too many games. I was massively over-optimistic about how many games were actually going to be played.
It's exactly like a proper convention.
Yes, it worked, all of those things, but it hit the right beats. But I did play, we did play a few games of Blood and the Clock Tower, which was also very, very good. Of course, being in a basement of an observatory, you thought, what better place to do that? So that was very, very fun. I also ended up playing a bunch of games I had played before, and a game we've just talked about on here, Veil of Eternity, which I played just before the weekend, and having reheard the comments made about that game, I entirely agree. But
great game, except for the board.
Yeah, the layout of that game was considerably unoptimized. It was done for show, not for functionality. But it was an interesting game. I did not take to it because I'm lousy at that kind of game, but I did not enjoy it. But I think more because it was the people I was playing it with, and there was a lot of cross-table banter, which made it fun. If I'd have played that with like super hardcore people who don't say anything during a game, and we all know who they are, then I think that game would be dull as fuck. I'm not going to lie.
I wouldn't have guessed that it's your kind of game, to be fair.
No. You'd be correct. I didn't hate it, though. I didn't hate it. I liked what it was trying to do, so it was all right, but I wouldn't choose to play it. You're right, Steve. But the one thing I hadn't played before was a game called Foundations of Rome, which I think has been doing the circuits for a year or two now.
I would be interested to know about this.
Yes, well, I thought you might be, because it's Emerson Matsuuchi, which is the same guy who did the Century games, so Spice Road and Spice Road. Spice Road, Eastern Wonders, and New World. They're the ones. Yes, there you go. Brilliant. All those three you can combine together. But yes, so this is the one after that, I guess. And this was kickstarted, and it is massively, truly massively overproduced. There is nothing in here that could not be done with a bunch of polyominoes, I'm not going to lie. But it is quite pretty. Yeah, it's...
Wow.
Looking at some of these pictures now, every building seems to be very detailedly moulded with trees and windowsills and
yes, they could do with an ink wash, but it was very, very simple though. It is literally on your turn. You can either buy a card, which gives you access to one of the squares where you can build something. You can gain some money, which depends on how many money buildings you've already built, and or you could put a building down. So buy a plot, put a building down, get money. That's it. Literally, that's it. And if you've got the right shape of cards that you already own, because every time you buy a card, you put a little symbol down to say, this is, I own this bit, hands off, then you can put a building down, and then various combinations of buildings will get you points or money or both. At the end of the game, there are various scoring criteria for the game, and the game is basically split into 3 ages. By the end of the game, all the cards will have come out, so the entire map will be filled in some manner. And that's basically it. It's really straightforward. It did take a lot longer than it probably should have done, in my opinion, but I am a quick player. And I know not everybody is the same. But I thought, and the guy who owned it was like, so what do you think of it, Andy? Because he's very, very proud of owning this game. It's huge, it's fantastic, it's a lovely bloke. And it's, what do you think of it, Andy? It's all right. He's like, is that it? And I'm like, yeah, sorry. It's all right. It's not bad, it's not great. I've played worse, I've played better.
Interestingly, it's ranked 324 on Board Game Geek, which is very high. But I kind of got the feelings, hearing what other people have said, was basically if you backed it on Kickstarter, you think it's amazing, and if you didn't, you think it's all right.
I
think kind of agrees with your theory.
Absolutely spot on, yes.
Yeah.
There's probably some opportunity to be slightly better than I was at the game, because I came last. I didn't hate it, but I just I found it to be a bit too turn position dependent, in the sense that if you are, the market has like five or six cards, and then you can do one thing on your turn. If you don't buy a card, then obviously you're going to wait till the next round. By the time that comes out, the card you wanted might have gone, or it might have come out and been bought already. And I found there was very little control of that you could actually do that was sensible. So you kind of had to basically make the best of a bad situation the entire time, which I don't mind, but only if I've got the ability to actually do something about it. And I didn't feel like I did. And it frustrated me slightly. I didn't hate it.
Would you say this game fits into that Matsui wheelhouse of, the Century games, and is it about that weight?
Yes, yeah, it's actually slightly lighter, actually. I'd say it's probably about the same weight as Spice Road. It's definitely lighter than Eastern Wonder, because Eastern Wonder, I think, is probably the heaviest of the three. The one with the boats and the map.
There's a lot of, it's a big box and a high price tag for what is then a very light game.
Yes, I would agree with that. As I say, it is. I think it's just been hugely overproduced. It looks lovely, but it's not necessary. It was more like, if you remember the Grim Forest, it was like that. Very pretty, but completely unnecessary. They could probably do a much, much, much cheaper version of it for 20 quid. We just polyominoes.
Which was just all cardboard and, yeah.
Yes. It does not need... There's no dice or anything in it. It's literally just polyominoes and a pack of cards and a board. That's it. It's really straightforward. But in this case, obviously, it's a big game tray with a bunch of buildings in it and stuff. That's what makes it expensive. But it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it, but it did last a long time with 5 players. I think it was overly long for what it was. But it wasn't terrible. But yeah, I think the assessment, if you didn't back it on Kickstarter, it's all right. I'm not gonna rush out and buy it, but I did not hate it either. Anyway, the rest of the weekend was good fun, and we're hoping to do another one at some other point. So, what made it kind of special for me though is the fact that it's where I used to. It's basically where I grew up. My grandparents lived about 100 yards away from that observatory.
Oh, lovely!
When I was growing up. Yeah. So I knew the area quite well. It was weird going back to it after literally 30 years, though. But a lot of it hadn't changed. But yeah, because further up the hill, there's a big windmill that you can see from the observatory. And I remember
you can see loads from the observatory, surely.
Yeah, you can see space and yeah, but genuinely you can actually see Liverpool on one side and Birkenhead on the other, and the windmill up the top of the hill, which I do remember getting to as a child with my brother. So every time we went out across the road from my grandparents, they have this big forest, literally bits and hills covered in woodland. We used to run around there as children, and we used to make it up to the windmill. Never made it as far as the observatory though, so it was nice to kind of see that part of it, but it was kind of it was almost like a homecoming for me. It was weird, but it was quite nice. But yes, I'm from that part of the world originally.
Never knew.
Well, now you do.
Talking of going, I don't know where I'm going with this actually.
Oh, Rory's going to attempt to segue.
It's all right.
Hang on.
If you don't know where you're going, what you need is some footsteps that might take you there.
To follow a trail, follow in the footsteps of someone great to get to go look at Steve.
Jesus Christ!
Thank you, Sid. That was brilliant. It's brilliant.
Don't you ever say I do bad segues ever again.
Oh, good Lord.
I think that was very good, Rory.
I thought that was great that you came and rescued me going a completely different direction, but it was brilliant. We've recently played Footsteps of Darwin and Footsteps of Mary Curie, which I know are 2 different games, and they are very, very different games. But we're going to shoehorn them in together because, let's face it, this episode, as you may have already guessed, is a bit of a shoehorn episode. We're just going to talk about a ton of games.
There's lots of shit that we've played.
There's loads of games we're going to talk about, and we're just going to give you the highlights. We're just going to give you the good stuff. So, in the Footsteps of Darwin, which is from Sorry We Are French, and I remember when I told Steve this, it was a Spiel des Jahres nominee from 2023. But this is a very light game. This is a tableau builder. The idea is you are taking tiles from a central board, which are all different animals, and you'll be playing them in your own journal, and you're playing in columns, which are 5 different continents. We're not counting Antarctica. And then you've got different types of animals. You've got birds, reptiles, mammals broadly, and bugs broadly as well. And you're going to move. What you have to do, in your turn, you're simply going to move the HMS Beagle clockwise around this board, and you're going to move it depending on which tile you take. So you've got a 3x3 grid of animals in front of you, and if you take the animal that's closest to the Beagle, you'll move 1 space. If you take the second animal, you'll move 2 spaces. Third animal, 3 spaces, and the next player takes their turn. And all you're trying to do is build columns and rows in your book. If you complete a column or row, you get a bonus. So if I get all the mammals, I'm going to write a mammal journal and get some 5 points. If I complete all of Africa, I'll write an African journal and I'll get 5 points there. If I double stack by going over the African bush elephant with another African mammal, then I will get another endgame scoring condition. And so all of these tiles will have some points on them, or they'll have some compasses, and you're trying to just min-max everything and just score points. But it is a really, really simple tableau builder. Take a tile, put it in its designated location. Next player does the same thing. Round and round you go until there are no tiles left. Simple. And I find it a very, very nice game. I think I thought when I first played this game, I thought it was going to be a bit heavier than it was. But after reading the rule book, I thought this game is pitched as a gateway game. This is a very, very light game, and it looks beautiful, wonderfully produced. And with that expectation, it's very good at what it does. What it does isn't hard.
Terribly exciting. I've played this game, and nice is a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because, yeah, it's nice, but it's that kind of, nice but inoffensive, if that makes sense. It's I don't know. I played it with Amanda. We played it 2-player. Whether 2-player was the right way to play it, I don't know. We've played a game and kind of went, okay, it's a game. There was nothing that excited us at all. We just kind of thought, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
The one problem we did have, though, is you have different types of animals you have to collect, and one of the types of animals is spiders, and which means there are lots of pictures of things like tarantulas and black widows and things which they're not cartoony in any way. Someone has tried to draw them quite realistic. They're still drawn. They're not photographs, but they're quite realistic. And Amanda did not want to see these at all. So I had to... The first time we played it as normal, and the second time I tried to fiddle it so that the spiders were at the bottom of the deck, so they wouldn't come up very often. She wouldn't go even near the game with all these pictures of spiders on.
That's an interesting thing, actually. Yeah.
So it basically meant that she didn't want to play it ever again.
No?
I think we played 2 games and then that was it. Oh, I'm not touching the spiders now. And I said, we can take the spiders out. It's like, well, not really.
They're quite an important aspect of the game, yeah.
Yeah.
But what did you think of this, Gil, when you played this?
I am. I don't care what you two say about it, because I think that this is a game that delivers. It does everything it promises to do. It's really beautifully drawn, as you say. All the tiles are lovely. It's simple. It's a 2 or 3 minute teach max, and you're playing.
Yeah.
And it is what, 20 minutes, half an hour or so.
Yeah.
You can get it out, you can play it, you can put it away again, and do you know what? I think it's brilliant. I really, really enjoyed it. Absolutely enjoyed it.
I mean, we did play it. Again, this is another game we played with the kids. And it was, I remember I played this first time I played this with Logan and Marley. Again, Logan, 8 years old. Marley wasn't enjoying it so much. She's not much of a gamer. But this really brilliant thing happened that Logan turned round to her and went, Marley, you need to move the ship 2 spaces to get this thing, and then you'll complete that row. And it's like, to see, that's how heavy this game is. My 8-year-old son was giving advice to other players, was able to get the strategy. This is what you need to do to score well. It's a family weight game. That's what I mean. It is gateway, and I think it delivers really well at that level.
I think you're right, and I don't think it needs to apologise for that.
No, I
generally
agree.
don't. I think what it's doing is it's doing it really well. It's giving a game for people that want something a bit more interesting than playing Ludo, right? But it's not putting in something that it's not taxing you at all. It was fun.
Yeah,
I liked it, and you know what? For that, it's a good game.
Yeah.
So then, Footsteps in Mary Curie then?
Completely
or in
different.
The footsteps of Mary
Totally
Curie?
different game.
Really?
Don't play with the kids.
Really? Why?
It is substantially heavier. That's not to say it is heavy, but Footsteps of Darwin is really light. Mary Curie is an engine builder. You're getting your uranium, radium, and you're converting the different things. So you've got a little player board in front of you, and you're having to get beakers and whatever the round type of beaker are. I forget the technical scientific names for them. But you have to try and win those, and then complete experiments by turning in your cubes to turn them over, and that gives you more abilities to manipulate more cubes at once. So you are turning black cubes into silver cubes and silver cubes into gold cubes, and then you're turning silver and gold cubes into points.
Oh, so it sounds a bit like Century Spice Road.
It is. It kind of, yeah. And you've got these little your mini objectives are the different types of the 2 different scientific beakers, and you're trying to collect some cards, and the cards will give you more abilities to access more pots or journals. It is a completely different game, and it has that. Is it Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion? It has that resource tower tube.
Haven't played it yet, although I'm trying to.
What game does that? It has that tower tube in it. Have I show you the picture?
Inventors? No.
No, you feed bricks into the top of this thing and then drops
This
different
thing here.
bricks out. Yeah.
Oh, one of them. I know there's a few games that do it. I know
Marrakesh does it as well, I think. One of the
Frostpunk
Stefan,
does it.
Frostpunk,
Stefan
that's the
Feld
one,
does
yeah.
it as well.
So you've got this tube, and you at the beginning of every round, the first thing you do is you collect a number of cubes of different colours, and you drop it in the top, and it will stop ones coming out, and then you can pick up a number of cubes. They go into your lab. You can do experiments and conversions, and then you can buy a card, and then it's the next player's go. So it's really simple, but trying to work out what to do in what order and how best to maximise your turn is actually a little bit crunchy, and that's why it's a big step up between the two games.
And it'd be easy looking at Footsteps of Darwin next to Footsteps of Marie Curie and go, oh, these are similar games.
Yeah.
They aren't. Be warned, right? You want lightweight, family-friendly, play Darwin. You want something a bit meatier when the kids are in bed, crack up Marie Curie and have a really good time. Because it's
Mary.
good. It's really good.
Yeah, very, very different games, but equally very enjoyable. That's it. I suppose the style, the look of them are really good. The quality of the components really good. They deliver at exactly what they're aimed at. They are the super light and light touching medium, really.
Okay.
But yeah,
That's shocked me a bit because I would have thought if you're going to do a follow-up game with the same name, it would be in the same kind of genre at least, or an obvious link between the two.
Yes, I would agree.
So yeah,
I think the only link between these two is that it's the same company and they use famous people from history.
Yeah.
That's about the only connection. They are totally
fair
different
enough.
games.
one of the artists is working on both of them as well, so they have that similar aesthetic.
They look very similar.
Yeah.
But that's it.
should we delve into the mailbag, gents?
That sounds like a damn good idea, Mr. Tudor.
Well, no, let's start with not a question, but a bit of information from one of our listeners.
Is this an individual who has historically provided perhaps too much information?
Well, yes. This is from Phil the Sheep, who has designated himself as official mascot, as apparently his position has not been formally revoked, so he's claiming squatters' rights on it.
The position of Polyhedron Collider may or may not coincide with this person's view.
I'm sure we agreed a few episodes back that the Binturong was going to be our official mascot, aka the Grumpy Sid.
We might have done. Sorry, Phil. Well, I mean, you've got to have a fight now. You need a fight between Phil the Sheep and a Binturong.
Brilliant. That's going to go down well.
We shall oil them up, put them in a ring at aircon, and let them fight it out with a rubber chicken.
Anyway,
That will not be happening at our live show. I promise you. There will be no oil. There will be no oil or grease or any other lubricant at our live show.
You could catch a greased sheep. Well, I mean, they used to do that in Viking times. Or was it a greased pig? One of the two.
It's a greasy pig, wasn't it?
Well, this time we're going to catch a greased sheep.
Okay, back up a bit, boys, right? This tangent, you've got a weird hole here. Right,
Well, okay.
what's Phil the Sheep got to say?
So Phil, and he's not the only person to say it, because somebody else commented this, and he's putting a formal petition to keep the goose honk instead of the klaxon. Because in the last episode, because we talked about Untitled Goose Game, I put the goose honk on. So You're not the first person to ask that, Phil, so that might be a sticker. That he also says he should submit more mail, maybe more of his shower exploits, to which I said, no, please don't.
No, definitely not. It's not even a please. No, just don't. Good God.
I have got a question for you here, which I think was supposed to be last year, but I think it's even better now. Right, because we did Shane Dwyer asks, what are your predictions for your game of the year or top 3?
We want us to predict our top 3 games for 2025 already.
Yeah, because he asked it in time at the end of 2024, which would have been obvious then because we do our end of 2024 podcast anyway. So each person give us a prediction of your top game of the year for this year. With only 6 weeks into the year.
Right. Oh, I know mine.
Well, I think I know what's going to be a good contender because we played it.
Yeah.
I know mine.
So I think a few of us are going to say Horror on the Orient Express, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, that for me has got me. Yeah,
we've played it. We know what it's like.
We know what it's like.
We just wait for it to turn up now.
I just want to see the final version of it now and get it back get it on the table and get playing again. Cannot wait.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. It was awesome fun, but it is up against things like New World Order. It's also up against things like Speakeasy. Mm-hmm. So and the new Nemesis, hopefully Nemesis Retaliation, if it ever turns up this year. I'm not holding my breath, but we'll see. So it's up against some pretty stiff competition here, gentlemen. So let's not
short of
chickens.
Short of it, arriving on my doorstep and having a massive shit on it, it's going to be Game of the Year for me.
Well, there you go.
I honestly don't know. I'm looking at my 2025 Geek list, and there are games coming to crowdfunding this year, but I don't think they're going to be delivered this year.
No, I think if it hits crowdfunding this year, it's going to be unlikely to be delivered.
It's unlikely
this
to
year.
be delivered this year. So I honestly don't know what my Game of the Year is going to be.
Well, that's the point. That you've got to.
I've got to
state your claim now, Rory.
You've got to take a poo or get off the toilet.
Right.
These aren't facts, Mr. Summers. This is cold hard speculation. Come on, this is what this podcast was founded on.
Game of the Year.
The only thing we have to do is remember what we say now. That's the key point here. We have to remember this.
We won't, but go on.
I'm going to say, can I just say something vague, like something from De Vere? No, okay, I'll tell you what.
Take a poo. Take a poo,
fine,
Rory.
Fine. One of my favourite games this year is Flatiron, which is the from Llama Dice, the people that did Red Cathedral and White Castle. It came out at Essen, but hasn't had a retail release until later this year. And I know I'm going to love that.
Okay.
Really safe bet.
There we go. It's a safe bet.
It's a safe bet.
That's fine. Let's pick another question. Andy Dobbs. Choose one designer each whose body of work you usually love and name one stinker from them.
Only
or
one.
is there any designer out there who's never done you wrong?
Yes, and yes, and yes. Well, back in days of yore, when I was a young, naive, and slightly thinner board gamer, I was a big fan of Mr. Jamie Stegmaier and his works Untitled Scythe. Since then, they have been basically one howler after the next. I don't think I've played a game from Stonemaier since Scythe that I've actually really enjoyed.
Wow, so it's not just one stinker.
I mean, Laura really likes Wingspan. If I don't say that, then I'm going to get in trouble when she hears this. But she really likes Wingspan. I can take or leave Wingspan. I find it a bit dull, to be honest. But I genuinely haven't played a Stonemaier game for a long time that I've actually said this is quite good. Because Tapestry was dog shit. Red Rising was boring as hell. Libertalia was just a remake, and I don't think it was that interesting, and it outstayed its welcome.
Charterstone,
oh yes. No, it had big problems, and it was a bit dull. And it kind of, I mean, slight spoiler, but once you get past like mission 10 out of 12, it just goes, kid, open the boxes, why not? Rather than actually give you a coherent story as to why. So it kind of copped out a bit, and there were I thought there were a few issues with it. There's a big rant from me and Steve years ago about this, so we're not going to do it again, but Whilst it was a reasonably straightforward worker placement game, it had issues, I think. That's the problem with it.
I think for me, it'd be Martin Wallace. There's a lot of Martin Wallace games I really enjoy, and then I played Rocket Men, and I really didn't enjoy Rocket Men.
Did you not? I really enjoyed it.
And I actually, come to think of it, I don't think I've played a Martin Wallace game since I played Rocket Men. I had a really bad experience with it, and I've not gone back and played another Martin Wallace game since.
But you've still got my copy of Brass, so, I want that back.
No, I've got that. It's at my feet.
Oh, you've got it. Okay.
No, I have.
Yeah.
I did play Brass recently, actually, but I played it last year, obviously. But yeah, Rocket Men was an absolute stinker and really kind of put me off.
I am surprised. Rocket Men did surprisingly badly, actually. I mean, you're not the first person to say they didn't enjoy it, to be honest. I've heard a few people say they didn't like it. Now, I played at an Expo with a few other people, so it's another one of these, here's the rules, go and sort of knock yourselves out. So we played a full game of it, and it was really fun, provided you got into it, because there was a lot of pushy luck in it, which could go badly, could go well, but that's obviously the nature of pushy luck.
I learned that about myself in that game, really, is that I'm actually quite a risk-averse person, generally, and especially in games. I do not like push your luck, and that whole game hinges on pushing your luck.
Yes, it
and
does.
if you don't do it, you're screwed, because it then just becomes a really slow, boring, monotonous game if you don't push your luck. And I played it once, and the game lasted hours. Because
really?
People were they tried to launch their ship and it exploded, and they're like, oh, well, that was a bit shit. It was fun and exciting, but then it blew up, and now I've got to start from scratch. And now it's gone wrong before. I don't really want to take the same risk again. So then every other player on the table became more and more risk averse every time they failed, which meant everybody was just like, 'cause it's a deck builder, I'm going to get this card. Your turn. Oh, I'll do this card. Your turn. And we just did that for hours. So no,
I think none of you got into the spirit of the game.
But
I wouldn't call it a stinker, but one of my favourite designers has always been Cory Konecka. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not.
Oh, Mansion of Madness chap.
So yeah, prolific Fantasy Flight Games designer. So Mansion of Madness, Twilight Imperium.
Yes.
Basically half the games in my collection from that era, and he left Fantasy Flight Games. So the first game he released, post Fantasy Flight Games, was The Initiative.
Oh yes, you and I played that.
We played that, yeah, because it came out 4 years ago now, and it was a game where you played a couple of games and went, oh, this is all right, and then you realise it's like a legacy game, and it didn't really feel like a legacy game.
Right.
And I think after about 4 games, it just kind of like,
petered
I
out.
can't replay the previous games because it's a puzzle game. So once you know the solution to the puzzle, you can't replay it. And so you need to play you need to play it as a campaign game, but it didn't have a campaigny element to it.
Yeah. Okay, I know what you mean. Yeah, because it's kind of a resettable campaign.
Yes,
because you're not.
It's a resettable. Yeah, it's a resettable campaign,
Yeah.
so it's not quite a legacy game. But because of the puzzle nature, you can't replay any games. It's like an escape room in that way.
Yes,
because the solution to it, you ended each game by solving a puzzle, and that puzzle was set for that game in the story. It wasn't like you got a random puzzle each time, which is the clever part of it, because you actually got a real puzzle. You had to work out the letters and what it would make a phrase, a bit like Wheel of Fortune kind of thing. But yeah, I think you even said we really liked it at the time, but it's one of those things that
we did.
Looking back at it, I've not really touched it since, kind of thing. So yeah.
So I'm going to replace designer with publisher.
Okay.
Ooh, good shout.
Because I usually love everything from Free League. Right? But it took me a long time to come back to Free League after we played Vase in Mythic Britain. And I was so disappointed by that it's still with me and I don't like it. Even Blade Runner hasn't helped it go away, because I just wanted that to be so much. I don't know what it was about Vase in Mythic Britain. I think it was because of what it could have been in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm annoyed at myself just as much as I'm annoyed at them. That in my mind, this was going to be a game which was going to do absolutely everything I wanted it to do from an RPG. It was going to give me it was our home turf. It was fantasy beasts and monsters and mythology and stuff that we all kind of grew up with. And then it delivered on those bits. It was the campaign book. Campaign book was such a massive letdown, and it's a real shame. So, yeah, they need to pick up their game.
A bit more serious then, as Johnston asks, how do you think the current US presidential policy on overseas manufacture of anything will affect board game prices outside of the US?
I don't think it'll have any effect whatsoever, because the tariffs that Mr. Trump is putting on US product is going to be paid by the US people and nobody else. So it's not going to change anything.
Unless you're in the US.
Exactly. It'll only affect the US. It won't affect anyone else. I don't see why it would.
I don't think it will affect anyone else, but I'm just wondering how many games are manufactured in the US?
Well, I'm still waiting on my Simon game, my Dark Providence.
But that's Singapore, though.
That's Singapore, yeah. That's a good point. It's not actually being manufactured in the US. Is it Game Brewer? But again, they have a European distribution.
Yeah. Well, Simon are not American. They're a Singaporean company.
Of course they are, yeah.
So, I mean, the big ones, I suppose, are what? Asmodee and maybe Modiphius. Modiphius don't produce...
Modiphius are UK.
Oh, okay, British. Yeah. So Asmodee, right, the big ones. And maybe...
Asmodee, which is officially a French company.
Yeah. Well, WizKids, Hasbro.
Hasbro, yeah. The only ones
but again, do they actually... They're US-based companies, but they don't manufacture in the US.
Most games are manufactured in China these days.
I think that's the point, though. I mean, if American companies are getting things manufactured in China, it's going to be more expensive for things being shipped into the US, but not anywhere else, because it's only the US tariffs that are going to affect the US.
Yeah,
unlike anybody in the GOP, who don't seem to understand how tariffs work, tariffs are paid by the civilians, and therefore the US prices are going to go up. Everybody else around the world isn't going to notice, so it doesn't matter.
The only slight caveat to that is it depends whether the companies decide to push it back to the US or absorb it themselves. If they absorb it themselves, the price will go up for us as well.
Yeah. Spread the cost around. Yeah.
That's the only caveat to that.
Because let's face it, it's a very big market in the US.
Yeah. Well, that stuck the tone, didn't it?
Yeah.
Torrin S asks a very weird question, in my opinion. If you were a tabletop game, what game would you be and why?
I know the answer to this one. I would be Jenga. Right? Because I am really rigidly structured and organised, but liable to lose my shit at any moment.
Nice. The stiff breeze will knock you out.
That is definitely a blind date question. And what a number 2?
I'm not doing the accent again for Scylla. You've fallen now. If I was a tabletop game, what existing would
I'm not even... No, I've got no idea.
I'm trying to think of something that's overly complicated and ultimately nobody ever has a good time.
See, I was going to say something that's overly ambitious but just doesn't quite satisfy.
Do you think you're an overly complicated person, though?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness, I can be. You only see the nice, happy-go-lucky facade on this podcast.
I'm sorry, say that again.
This is the cute, fluffy bunny, Andy. There are many... I'm like an onion. More like Shrek, actually, to be fair. I'm like an onion. I have many layers and many moods.
Well, unfortunately, all Torrens' question has done is confirm that we're never going to get a date.
You're going to be rubbish on blind date.
Scylla's going to kick us off the show in a minute. Rory's all right. He's on holiday with whatever her chops was.
Yeah, I got my answer in quick.
Three of us are sat there trying to work out an answer. Rory's gone in with Jenga. He's wooed her off her feet and gone off on the cruise and living it up in the Bahamas now.
Yeah, but they've ended up having an argument because he fell apart and lost his shit because the waiter was late. So it's all fallen apart.
Look, she knew that getting into the relationship, okay? She can't back out now.
Yep, based on all 5 minutes of her prior experience. Yeah, what a crap.
Okay, well,
Anyway.
well, hopefully, Torrin, that's answered your question.
Yes, well, from one of us anyway. I think we should leave it at that then.
Oh.
For today.
Ooh. Just it's going to be a very punchy episode.
Well, yeah, we've talked about a lot of games today. So, thank you very much for listening, everyone. We have been Polyhedron Collider. If you enjoyed this, please give us a review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, or share the podcast on social medias, which are Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky, as well as Board Game Geek Guild 2726. We've set up a new thread on the Board Game Geek Guild for your questions. So if you have any more questions to ask us, slap them in there. And what we're going to do is, apparently Rory has been told that he will go in and tell people which episode questions got answered.
You're joking.
That wasn't mine. That was a listener. That one who suggested that. They said Rory, being the most organised, would obviously do this.
Obviously.
Good stuff.
Obviously.
Good stuff.
Because you've got enough to do. Anyway, until next time, happy gaming.
Ta-ra!
Cheerio.
Bye-bye. Why I've got listeners giving me work? What? How the fuck has this happened?
They've learnt about you.
So it's the curse of competence, mate.
You have an electronic clipboard, remember?
Jesus Christ. Right, okay.